let's start with the likelihood of a brokered or contested convention. Will we see it, and what would it mean?
I think it's probably a 50-50 chance right now that we will see some kind of contested convention for the Republicans. And a contested convention is simply a convention fight that goes beyond a single vote. Normally conventions begin with all of the delegates who are there voting for who the nominee should be, and those delegates on that first vote are attached to how their states voted in the primary system. After that first vote, if no candidate has a majority of delegates, those delegates become released and can vote for whoever they want. So a contested convention simply is a convention that goes to a second or more ballot, and those delegates then can be contested by the candidates, and you'll see Donald Trump trying to convince the Ted Cruz delegates to come over, and the candidates will fight amongst themselves to capture delegates. A contested convention is slightly different than a brokered convention, simply because a brokered convention is dominated by power brokers. The old classic scene of smoke-filled back rooms, those are brokered conventions where party bosses generally dominate the convention and they decide how the delegates will go. It's unlikely that we will see a power broker on the Republican side because it is split so heavily, but we are likely to see a contested convention.
So what is the risk, or how does this affect the Republican Party?
It would be very damaging for the party. The problem with a contested convention is that at some point you have to unite again. And the convention is supposed to be about unifying the party. It is supposed to be an event where all the candidates come together and declare that they are now behind their nominee, and they heal the wounds of the primary election battles. But if your convention is spent just figuring out who the nominee is, well, when do you unify? You really run the risk of having people break off and form third-party candidacies. And if that happens, your party is in dire trouble.
Well, let's touch on the chances of that, and then what would it mean beyond dire trouble?
Well, unusually, it looks like both parties are running the risk of splintering into third-party candidacies. On the Republican side, we're crossing the threshold of it becoming likely. It's not just possible. I think we're crossing that threshold to becoming a likely third-party nomination. And that is because Donald Trump is far and away leading the polls. He's winning the states. He is the front runner. But the party seems to be unifying to dethrone him. Well, Donald Trump is not going to go down quietly. He's not just going to disappear into the night. If he doesn't get the Republican nomination, he will probably declare an independent bid for the presidency. But if he does get the nomination, the party establishment has already united against him, and they're going to be severely tempted to back another candidate, to force them to do a third-party nomination. So on the Republican side, I think it is likely to see a split, and I think it's likely to see somebody run a third-party campaign. On the Democratic side, there's a big question about what Bernie Sanders is going to do. He's doing very well in some polls. He's winning states that he was not expected to win. But if you look at the math, it does not seem like he's ever going to amass the delegates to defeat Hillary Clinton. But Bernie Sanders is not a long-term Democrat. He joined the Democratic Party for this cycle to run as president. He has caucused with them in the Senate and in the House before, but he is not a party regular. He has no loyalty. He very well may take his supporters and run his own third-party candidacy, which means we could see 3, maybe 4 presidential candidates running in November. And if you have 4, why not add a 5th and 6th just for fun?
One final question I'm just going to tack on here and see if we can include. What does this mean going forward for future election cycles? I mean, beyond 2016, are we rewriting how this campaign process works?
2016 has completely rewritten the primary election playbook. What we're not certain of right now is, are we rewriting the playbook because of Donald Trump? Is he a one-time figure who is changing the dynamics of this cycle? Or does he represent something bigger? Is there a fundamental change to the American electorate? We could be in the middle of a party realignment. Party realignments happen typically every 30 to 40 years. We were due for one in the early 2000s, and it never happened. So it's possible that we are going to see the parties fundamentally shift, and American politics will never be the same again. We'll move into a new era. Or we could discover that Donald Trump is just a fantastic media machine, and without him there, things will go back to party politics as normal. We just don't know yet.